Jessie is managing her first Agile project, which follows an iterative approach and involves only internal stakeholders within her organization. A colleague asks Jessie how she plans to gather feedback from the project sponsor throughout the project lifecycle. What should Jessie's response be? A. She will gather feedback at any point during the project. B. She will gather feedback at the halfway point and again at the end of the project. C. She will not gather feedback as she is already familiar with the project requirements. D. She will gather feedback only at the end of the project after the final deliverable is accepted. The chart provided is an example of a EAN stoplight chart organization chart. Rasi chart Ishikawa diagram. At a local PMI chapter meeting, a speaker proposes that Scrum teams maintain an impediment backlog to track and resolve blockers affecting progress. While discussing this idea, you consider which items would not belong in an impediment backlog. Which of the following would not be included in an impediment backlog? A technical dependency has been identified between two code bases. B. A new developer's keyboard is broken and needs to be replaced. C. The customer has submitted feedback requiring a minor code change. D. The project budget needs to be increased. Rose's project team is developing a prototype of an online tutoring product. The team is utilizing Kanban and has implemented work in progress WIP limits on the columns on the Kanban board. There is a WIP limit of 3 on the coding column. Based on the image provided, what should Rose do? Rose should move one ticket from coding into code review because the column violates the WIP limit. Rose does not need to do anything. Work items are moving along appropriately. Rose should have the team decide which tickets must move back into the backlog from the coding column and have developers pair on the remaining 3 tickets. Rose should tell the software developers to code more quickly because there are many tickets in the coding column. Rose's project team is developing a prototype of an online tutoring product. The team is utilizing Kanban and has implemented work in progress WIP limits on the columns on the Kanban board. There is a WIP limit of 3 on the coding column. Based on the image provided, what should Rose do? Rose should move one ticket from coding into code review because the column violates the WIP limit. Rose does not need to do anything. Work items are moving along appropriately. Rose should have the team decide which tickets must move back into the backlog from the coding column and have developers pair on the remaining 3 tickets. Rose should tell the software developers to code more quickly because there are many tickets in the coding column. Marvin, a new project manager in your organization, asks when the lessons learned register should be updated. You want to provide him with the correct guidance to ensure he understands how to manage this important document effectively. When should the lessons learned register be updated? The lessons learned register should be updated at any point during the project. The lessons learned register should be updated whenever there is an update to the issue log. C. The lessons learned register should be updated during retrospective meetings. D. The lessons learned register should be updated only at the end of the project during the closing phase. A project team is nearing the end of the first phase of a 3-phased project. However, team morale is low, deliverables are behind schedule, and significant rework has been required. The project manager must decide the best course of action to address these challenges and prepare for the next phase. What should the project manager do first? A. Tell the project team they need to increase their pace for the next phase. B. Throw the project team a party to boost morale. C. Host a retrospective with the project team. D. Update the lessons learned documents with the sponsor. A stakeholder emails you with feedback that the grade of material used in manufacturing could be improved. Upon reviewing the project's assumptions, scope, and quality documents, you confirm that the current grade of material is acceptable to the sponsor. You must decide how to handle this feedback. How should you proceed? A. Notify the sponsor about the stakeholder's feedback. B. Add the feedback to the issue log. C. Document this information in the risk register as it could potentially cause problems. Take no action because the material grade is acceptable. Mike is the project manager overseeing a software development project. He encourages team members to take ownership of their work and resolve problems independently. While Mike is ultimately responsible for the project's success, he focuses on fostering collaboration within the team. He often hosts impactful team-building workshops and empowers the team to make decisions collectively. What management style does Mike use? A. Influencing. B. Coaching. C. Delegating. D. Directing. A stakeholder asks you to identify a compliance risk, which involves potential legal, regulatory, or policy violations. Which of the following represents a compliance risk? A key team member leaves for another job. B. A rare material may not be available in sufficient quantity. C. A developer fails to enable 2-factor authentication for a database with customer financial data. D. A strike near the Panama Canal delays project delivery.